You're trying to withdraw this much cash, with no escort, no prior notice, and that ID. I'm sorry, ma'am, but this looks like fraud. Her words landed like a slap in a cathedral. The lobby was silent just seconds ago. White marble floors, sunlight slicing through 12-foot windows, the soft hum of wealth in motion. Now it pulsed with tension. Cold. Calculated. Vanessa Blake stood still. She wasn't flustered, wasn't rattled. She simply looked. At the teller. At the room. At the eyes that had begun to turn toward her. She wore a silk orange dress, tailored, minimalist, flowing like it belonged in a different dimension than the bank's beige monotony. No assistant. No briefcase. Only poise. But that wasn't what the teller saw. We've had incidents before, the teller added, her voice gaining confidence, sensing support from silence. High-risk withdrawals from accounts that didn't belong to them. You understand, it wasn't a question. It was a warning. It was permission for everyone nearby to begin doubting, judging, recording. Vanessa didn't answer, because she'd heard it all before. In Charlotte, in Atlanta. In a hotel lobby at age 16, wearing her Sunday best, still being asked to leave. Because even when your money is clean, your skin to some isn't. And here she was again. Older. Richer. Visa. But to this teller? Still. Unverified. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change. And we're glad you're here. Now, back to Vanessa. The manager hadn't come out yet, but the phones were out. The whispers had begun. And Vanessa, she still hadn't said a word. Not because she couldn't. Because she knew. Once she spoke, the building would never forget her. The manager still hadn't come out, but his shadow moved behind the frosted glass. Watching, Vanessa stayed silent. Not because she was unsure, but because she was taking notes. The teller avoided her eyes now. She busied herself with screens, rearranging nothing, typing gibberish. Her fingers trembled slightly. Vanessa noticed. She always noticed. Because this wasn't just about today. It never was. She had seen this play before. Différents stages, same lines. A girl with a dream, walking into a job fair, at 21, credentials in hand, confidence in spine, only to be told, we're not hiring at this level, but housekeeping's always open. A woman at 28, trying to close her first $1 million round, interrupted mid-pitch. Whose assistant are you again? That look. The one that sizes you up and edits you down before you speak. She knew it too well. It always started with skepticism. Then came protocol. Then, when that failed, came the real voice behind the system. Vanessa shifted her weight slightly. Her heels echoed against the marble. She wasn't performing. She was remembering. Everything all right, ma'am. The manager's voice finally arrived, crisp and managerial, as he stepped into view. Late 42nd, silver tie, eyes that had memorized control. Vanessa turned to him slowly. You requested a high-volume cash withdrawal, he said, clipboard in hand. And our teller had concerns. Nothing personal. It's just standard compliance. Standard compliance. That phrase, she'd heard it in boardrooms that didn't want her opinions. In contracts that cut her out. In country clubs that suddenly revised their guest policy the day she showed up. I see, Vanessa said, her voice calm. And what about the footage? He blinked. Footage? Vanessa tilted her head slightly toward the security camera above the teller's station. That camera. The one recording everything since I walked in. The manager glanced up just for a second. I assure you, he said quickly, we handle all recordings internally and securely. Good, she replied. Because when the audit comes, I want them to see everything. He hesitated. That word. Audit. It didn't fit. Not with someone they thought was bluffing. Vanessa took one step forward. Not rushed. Not hostile. Just decisive. This account is mine. The funds are clean. The withdrawal is legal. The protocol is routine. Her tone didn't rise. But the weight in her voice that landed. Across the room, a junior banker paused, eyes locked on the scene. She recognized the name. She'd seen it before on a report, a shareholder list, a founding file. But she said nothing. Not yet. The manager opened the folder in his hand, flipping through papers he didn't need to see, buying time. Vanessa watched him squirm in real time. This was no longer about her withdrawal. This was about their exposure. Because once a system starts protecting itself, instead of the people it's meant to serve, someone always pays. Miss Blake, the manager finally said, voice softer, if there's been any misunderstanding, I sincerely apologize on behalf of the staff. She gave a faint smile. Not warm. Not cruel. Just deliberate. The misunderstanding isn't mine. And then she turned. Toward the room. Toward the phones still quietly rolling. Toward the silence that now felt complicit. Vanessa wasn't just a customer. She was a witness. And soon, she'd be the reckoning. The misunderstanding isn't mine. Vanessa's words still hung in the air like smoke. The manager tried to speak again but hesitated. He could feel it. The power shifting. Not loudly. Quietly. Like pressure building behind glass. Across the lobby, someone coughed too sharply. It wasn't a cough. It was a signal. The junior banker. She stood now, slowly. Barely 24. Blazer too big for her shoulders, but eyes alert. Eyes that had been watching everything. She glanced at the manager, then at Vanessa. Excuse me, she said, voice soft but steady. Did you say Blake? The room sharpened. The teller stiffened behind her screen. Vanessa didn't answer. She just turned a slow, deliberate motion and met the girl's eyes. The young banker took a small step forward. Vanessa Blake. As in, V. Blake Capital. The audit committee. The manager froze. That name. That committee. That audit. Suddenly, this wasn't a concerned customer. This wasn't a routine compliance flag. This was exposure. Vanessa didn't confirm. She didn't need to, because silence, when backed by truth, can roar louder than any voice. The manager began to sweat. Not visibly, but behind his eyes, the kind of panic only people in power feel when they realize they picked the wrong one. I'll just check the system again, the teller stammered, fingers fumbling at the keyboard. Too late. The system was already watching. The girl with the oversized blazer spoke again, this time to the room. I interned with Blake Capital last year. She's real. And she's not just a client, she's ownership level. Whispers rippled like static. Vanessa turned back toward the counter. Her gaze wasn't angry. It was surgical. You had one job, she said quietly. Protect your clients. Not profile them. No one moved. The phones that had been recording casually, now steadied. The manager tried one last move. Miss Blake, I deeply regret the tone our staff may have taken. But please understand, we have procedures. She raised her hand. Just slightly. He stopped speaking mid-word. You regret being watched, she said. Not what you did. And in that moment, the weight of the lobby shifted again. Not in noise. Not in volume. In tension. The crowd wasn't just watching now. They were waiting. For what? They didn't know, but they could feel it coming. Vanessa stepped back from the counter. Not retreating. Creating space for consequences to land. The junior banker didn't sit down. And somewhere near the entrance, a man in a navy suit lowered his phone and whispered to someone beside him. She owns the audit committee? They're done. He wasn't wrong. In less than 6 minutes, a false assumption had become a public disaster, and Vanessa still hadn't raised her voice. Not once. Because power doesn't need volume. Just timing. The teller's screen flickered. She stared at it like it had betrayed her, and maybe it had. Lines of access codes. A prompt requesting override confirmation. Something she hadn't seen before. This isn't a normal account, she whispered to herself. The manager leaned over her shoulder, squinting. His voice dropped. Why is there a V-level override here? I've never seen that on this system. Because you weren't meant to, Vanessa thought. Because people like you don't own the building. They just work in it. She said nothing. Not to them. Not yet. Instead, she walked. Not out. Not away. She walked into the lobby, into the space. Her heels clicked sharp across the marble, drawing eyes like a magnet. She wasn't fleeing. She was reclaiming the room. Pause. Then she turned. Slowly. Fully. And faced them. I asked for a withdrawal, she said clearly, voice like glass reflective, sharp, unshaking. From my own account. Using credentials registered with this institution since its founding. The manager's face began to twitch, because now everyone was listening. Instead of being served, Vanessa continued. I was profiled, delayed, and publicly accused of fraud. She didn't shout. She didn't curse. She simply stated facts. But facts, when arranged in full view, can become a weapon. The junior banker was still standing, lips parted slightly like she wanted to speak again, but knew better than to interrupt. The navy suit man near the entrance had stopped pretending to scroll his phone. Vanessa stepped forward one more pace. This bank has hosted my portfolio for 9 years. It has benefited from my investments, my networks, and my audits. And yet, here we are. Silence. Heavy, raw silence. The teller looked ready to cry. The manager tried again one last pivot. Miss Blake, he said, half pleading, half performing. I assure you, this does not reflect our values. Our staff is diverse. Our practices fair. She cut him off, with nothing but an inhale, a single breath, a gesture so controlled it silenced the man midline. Diversity isn't protection, she said quietly. It's decoration when people like me still get treated like suspects. Someone near the back murmured, damn. Vanessa looked at the ceiling for a second. Not in frustration, in calculation. She was measuring how long to wait before pulling the final thread. But not yet, not now, because what comes next, they have to feel not just here. So she gave them space. Let the discomfort sit. Let the crowd see the cracks. And in those few seconds of silence, the weight of the situation did something the bank never intended. It turned Vanessa Blake from anomaly into mirror. Every bystander now had a choice. Ignore, excuse, or reflect. The manager shifted again. Would you like to reschedule your withdrawal with one of our senior associates? The irony nearly made her laugh. But she didn't. She stepped forward one last time, close enough that the teller instinctively backed away. Vanessa placed her business card on the counter. Black mat. No title. Just a name and a number. Then she said, you'll want to forward this to your legal team before end of day. And with that, she turned. No rage. No storming out. Just gravity. Behind her, the building exhaled. But no one felt relief, because the silence she left wasn't absence. It was a signal. Vanessa was already halfway to the door when her phone buzzed. She didn't look at it. She didn't need to. She knew what the vibration meant. Protocol V had been activated. Behind her, the manager was still trying to recover control. Let's just coordinate with head office, he whispered to the teller, voice clipped. Maybe there's a back-end issue. Maybe it's a system flag. The teller didn't answer. Her screen had frozen. Lines of code now ran across it, not the usual interface. Not anything she'd seen in training. Then a small red icon blinked in the corner. Audit lockdown. Executive override. 5.5. Active. Simultaneously, the junior banker's tablet beeped. She looked down, confused. An email had just landed. Subject line. Internal review notice. Branch 8045 priority. Tier 1. The sender? Vanessa.Blake@vbholdings.com. The timestamp? 2 minutes ago. Across the lobby, 3 devices buzzed in sequence, staff phones. Then the fireproof door near the back of the teller stations gave a soft click. Locked. A quiet chain reaction was now underway, and no one in this building could stop it. Vanessa didn't turn around. She paused at the glass entrance, watching her own reflection. Not for vanity, for timing. Her reflection stared back, composed, poised, inevitable. She wasn't here to punish. She was here to correct. Back inside, the manager finally noticed the silence. He glanced at the teller's monitor again. The V-level override now displayed a line in bold red. This account is protected by Executive Oversight Protocol. Staff interference constitutes breach. His lips parted. Wait, oversight? From who? The junior banker whispered. Her. It's her protocol. He turned pale. Everything clicked. Too late. Vanessa stepped forward again, this time stopping halfway between the marble columns and the teller desk. For the first time, she addressed the entire room. I initiated this protocol not to prove a point but to protect the system I helped build, because if this can happen to me, it can happen to anyone who doesn't fit your assumptions. She let the words breathe, not float, sink. A man in a tailored blue suit, likely another client, raised a brow. He turned to the manager. Did you just try to freeze out your own audit chair? The manager said nothing, because what could he say? What apology fits the shape of systemic failure? Vanessa walked back to the counter. Not slowly, not aggressively, just with the precision of someone who knows this floor plan better than the staff. She placed a single document folder on the desk. It was slim. Branded, V. Blake Holdings, Compliance Division. This will be reviewed at the board level, she said. Today. With footage. Then she looked at the teller not unkindly, but directly. And you were trained to follow procedure. But you weren't trained to see power in unfamiliar packaging. The teller looked like she might cry again. But Vanessa didn't flinch, because this wasn't vengeance. It was maintenance. The junior banker, still holding her tablet, suddenly stood straighter. For the first time that morning, she looked proud. Proud of knowing. Proud of witnessing. Proud of not looking away. Vanessa turned once more, and this time, she walked. Through the lobby. Past the portraits of men who once decided who mattered and who didn't. Past the hushed whispers. Past the fear. Toward daylight. Where her driver waited. Where her schedule continued. Where power wasn't something she had to prove, just something they finally had to recognize. The door closed behind her with a quiet click. Vanessa was gone, but her presence hadn't left. Inside the branch, everything had changed, not in volume, not in action, but in air. The silence was no longer awkward. It was radioactive. The teller stared at the screen, now fully locked. System halted. Oversight. 5.5. Audit active. Local control disabled. She whispered, almost to herself. We're locked out. The manager's phone buzzed again. Another email. This one from Internal Governance HQ. Due to escalation at branch 8045, full review is in effect. Please await formal inquiry. All staff actions are now under observation. Hell looked up. The entire staff floor had stopped moving. Emails had frozen. Phones on. Do not disturb. Security badges rejected at internal doors. The building hadn't just frozen operations. It had frozen judgment. At the far end of the lobby, the man in the navy suit approached the counter. He wasn't aggressive, but he wasn't casual either. Is it true? He asked the junior banker. She runs oversight? The Blake from Blake Capital? The junior nodded. She owns more of this bank than the board chair. She's the final audit signature. He blinked. And you stopped her from withdrawing her own funds? The teller said nothing, because at this point, the only defense would be fiction. The manager tried one final maneuver: damage control. He cleared his throat, forced a smile, and turned toward the lobby. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, we apologize for the brief disruption. We're just performing a routine internal check, and no one was listening. Phones were already buzzing with forwarded emails. Clients whispering to clients. A silent scandal unraveling in real time. Not viral on social media, viral where it mattered more. The boardroom. The press inbox. The investment chain. The junior banker watched him speak, and something clicked. Not in her head. In her spine. A quiet décision. She stepped forward. Mr. Carlson, she said, interrupting the manager for the first time. I believe you need to excuse yourself from the floor until legal arrives. The room paused. The manager turned slowly. Excuse me, but her voice was firm now. Almost calm. Your access has been flagged by compliance. We all saw the override notice. You're listed as one of the obstructing parties. He blanched. You can't order me to leave. I'm the acting branch lead. She held up her tablet. Showed the screen. Red text. Flagged. Awaiting compliance review. Personnel ID. 377-. Carlson. He looked at it, then looked around, and in that moment, he realized he had lost the room, not because Vanessa had demanded it, But because the system he thought he controlled had been watching him the whole time, he stepped back, not escorted, just erased. The teller followed instinct, not orders. She removed her headset, stood up, not to protest, to step away from the terminal. A machine that no longer obeyed her. The junior banker was now the only one standing at the desk. Not by rank, by choice. She looked down at the matte black business card, still sitting on the marble. No title, just a name, Vanessa Blake. Across the lobby, clients began quietly filing out. Not angry, impressed, shaken, reminded. Outside, the sun still glared off the glass. Vanessa was already in the back of the black car, the door held open by her driver. Her phone screen blinked new alerts. 3 board members had already pinged her. No words. Just din. She didn't reply. Not yet. She looked out the window one last time. Inside that bank, they were still frozen. But the story? That had already moved on. You all owe her an apology. The voice wasn't loud, but it landed like a verdict. Everyone turned. The man in the navy suit, early 52nd, polished, composed, was no longer whispering. He was walking back toward the counter. I've banked here for 18 years, he said. Seen 4 branch managers, 2 renovations, and countless compliance drills. He paused, and I've never once seen that override. Never seen a single person freeze this place with one phone call. No one interrupted, because it wasn't a rant. It was a record. You tried to block her. You raised your voice. You humiliated her. Right here in front of clients. He gestured broadly, to the marble floors, the silent desks, the stunned staff, and all while she was trying to access funds she built this place with. The junior banker looked down, not in shame and gravity. The teller? Already seated again, quiet, hands off the keyboard. The manager? Still behind glass, visibly shaken, out of play. The man turned to the rest of the room. Some of you filmed. Some of you watched. Now you know. So ask yourselves this. What would have happened if she weren't who she is? Silence. A painful, honest kind. Because everyone already knew the answer. Outside, Vanessa's car hadn't moved. She wasn't rushing. She never needed to. In the backseat, her phone lit up again. A message from legal. Branch 8045 fully escalated. You'll have a recommendation on Carlson's removal within the hour. She locked the screen without replying. Her reflection caught in the window still, unmoved, unshaken, just waiting. Back inside, the man in the navy suit adjusted his cuff, took one last look around, and said, You judged her by the way she walked in. Now you'll remember her by how she walked out. Then he turned, nodded once to the junior banker, and left. No applause, no noise. But something in the room had changed permanently. The fear had shifted sides. The black car hadn't moved. Vanessa sat inside, legs crossed, gaze calm as if she were waiting for a meeting to begin, not just leaving one behind in flames. Her phone buzzed again. Not an alert. A call. She let it ring once, twice, then answered. Yes. The voice on the other end was steady, respectful. General Counsel, Miss Blake, confirmation received. Branch 8045 is under full internal review. Do you want us to suspend local leadership pending outcome? Vanessa looked out the window. Through the tinted glass, she saw the bank's entrance. Reflected in the marble was not her image, but their reaction. The silence. The panic. The sudden vacuum of authority. She didn't speak right away. Then, number. Don't suspend them yet. A beat. Have them stay in position until the staff meeting this Friday. I want them to feel it. Every hour. The lawyer didn't question her. Just understood. Anything else? Yes, she said. Move Adrian Moreno into interim lead. Quietly. Have HR notify her by morning. The junior analyst? No. Vanessa corrected, the one who didn't flinch. She hung up. Inside the branch, the junior banker's tablet vibrated again. A notification. Subject. Interim adjustment notification. Effective. Immediate. 2. Adrienne Moreno. Role. Acting branch liaison. Audit oversight. She blinked. Twice. Her eyes lifted toward the lobby where her coworkers still stood, stunned, in disarray. She didn't smile. She simply took a breath, then tapped. Acknowledge. At that exact moment, back in the car, Vanessa gave a final instruction to her driver. Circle the block once, she said, then pull back to the entrance. Back to the branch? She nodded. I'm not done yet, because reckoning wasn't the point. Resetting the room was. And sometimes, to change a system, you don't burn it down, you walk back in and take the seat they refuse to offer. The black car made a slow, deliberate turn back onto the main avenue. Inside, Vanessa didn't adjust her dress or check her makeup. She didn't rehearse a word. She simply sat centered, ready, and unbothered. The driver glanced in the mirror. Back to the front entrance. Miss Blake? Yes, she said, eyes forward. And leave the door open. Inside the bank, nothing had moved. Not a word. Not a screen. Not even the air. The staff were still frozen in place, not by force, but by exposure. That's the difference. Fear fades. But truth lingers. Then came the sound. Heels. Clicking. Once more, from the marble steps. And this time, no one pretended not to hear them. The glass doors parted. Vanessa walked in. Alone. No escort. No entourage. No apology. She wasn't coming back to explain. She was coming back to be seen on her own terms. The junior banker Adrian was the first to straighten up. Not in shock. In alignment. She stepped forward instinctively. Miss Blake. Welcome back. Vanessa gave a single nod, then walked past her not dismissively, but with precision. She moved to the center of the lobby, near the security turnstile, the place they'd first hesitated to scan her ID. Then she turned, faced them all. The manager, now standing awkwardly at the edge of the teller desk. The teller, still seated, eyes down. The rest of the floor staff watching with the guilt of those who stayed silent too long. Vanessa said nothing for a moment. She let the room feel it. Not shame, but correction. Then she spoke. I'm not here to teach you about me, she said. That lesson already arrived. A pause. I'm here to see who else is willing to learn about themselves. A few eyes dropped. A few others held her gaze uneasy, but trying. Vanessa turned slightly toward Adrian. I've appointed a temporary liaison. She'll coordinate directly with audit and oversight. Adrian stepped forward, but didn't say a word. She didn't need to. Her poise was her response. Vanessa continued. There will be no terminations today. A visible exhale from several mouths. Then she added, not because you deserve grace, but because I won't let your ignorance ruin your livelihood the way you tried to ruin my dignity. Silence again, but deeper now. Like the room had dropped an octave. She walked toward the teller desk this time, slower. The same woman who had flagged her earlier now stood, eyes wide. Vanessa didn't look angry. She didn't even look stern. She looked resolved. She placed a single sheet of paper on the counter. A withdrawal receipt. Same amount. Same account. Only this time, it was already stamped. Released. The teller blinked. Miss Blake, Vanessa raised a hand gently. No need. Then, just remember. Power doesn't always enter the room with a briefcase. Sometimes it walks in wearing color. And with that, she turned not to leave just yet. To finish what she started, she walked to the staff lounge door. Took a key card from her purse, one none of them knew she had. Scanned it. The door unlocked. Access granted. She didn't walk through. She just looked at them one last time. This isn't just your workplace. It's your test. Let's see who passes. Then she walked out. This time, not escaping a mistake, but leaving behind a new standard. The door closed behind her. Again, but this time, there was no clicking of heels fading into distance. No retreat. Only echoes of a presence that had realigned the entire room. Inside, the staff remained still. For a long, uncomfortable moment, no one spoke. No one touched a keyboard. No one tried to move on. Because you don't just move on from a recalibration. You sit with it. You let it reshape you. Adrian Moreno stood quietly near the teller counter, her tablet still in hand. She didn't issue orders. She didn't have to. Her promotion had come not as a reward, but as a test of her own next step. So she made it count. She walked toward the team. We start over today, she said simply. All training is suspended. All protocols are under review. No exceptions. A few glanced at each other. And if you're wondering why I'm leading this, she added, just remember, I didn't speak the loudest. I just didn't look away. The teller who had profiled Vanessa sat back down slowly. She looked shaken. But something else stirred beneath the surface now. Not fear. Not shame. Recognition. She looked over at Adrian. Can I stay late today? To help with the review. Adrian gave a small nod. Only if you're staying to learn. She nodded back. This wasn't redemption. It was re-entry. In the manager's glass office, Carlson sat alone, blinds half closed. His screen was dark. His badge had been reset. And for the first time in his career, no one looked to him for what came next. He stared at the door Vanessa had unlocked. The one he never had access to. Because the real problem wasn't that she had a key. It was that he never questioned why she needed one. Meanwhile, outside, the black car eased away from the curb. Vanessa didn't look back. She was already answering emails, confirming her next site visit, forwarding documents. This wasn't her victory lap. This was just Tuesday. But 2 blocks away, a journalist refreshed her inbox. She'd received a tip. Blake shuts down bank branch without saying a word. No headline yet, but the outline had begun. Because while Vanessa didn't post videos, tweet receipts, or record confrontations, the system always left a paper trail. And now, people were paying attention. Back at the branch, a few clients remained seated. One woman in her 60s stood, walked to Adrian, and said, I saw what happened. Adrienne looked up. You handled yourself with dignity. We all should have said something sooner, the woman added. Then she reached into her purse, pulled out Vanessa's matte black card, now slightly worn at the edges. She's more than a client, the woman said. She's a reminder. A pause. Then the older woman added, if she ever runs for board chair, you tell her she has my vote. Adrian smiled, not for politics. For the future. Because today wasn't just a reset for the bank. It was a memo to every room that thought silence was safe. Gregory stared blankly at the red light on the scanner. His badge, rejected. Aisha didn't move. She didn't gloat. She didn't need to. The silence in the lobby was louder than any applause. Kevin checked his phone. Then the scanner. Then his badge. Same red flash. Lauren stepped back, hand trembling as her access was revoked in real time. 3 staff members. 3 system lockouts. Live. Irreversible. From Aisha's phone, Carla's voice confirmed. Authorization completed. Access terminated. Gregory stumbled behind the desk like a man suddenly evicted from his own story. This is insane, he muttered. Aisha stepped forward slowly, gaze steady. Her words were low. Not for effect, but because truth didn't need volume. You framed me. You took my card. You threatened me. You tried to make me small in a place I built. Kevin looked around helplessly. I was just following protocol. No, Aisha said calmly. You were following assumption. A wave of murmurs swept across the lobby. Sophie was still recording. Jacob's stream ticked past 5,000 viewers. Then, the room shifted again. Aisha turned to Elena. Do you have the file? Elena nodded. I printed it as you instructed, just in case. She pulled out a slim folder from beneath the concierge podium and handed it over. Aisha flipped it open. Inside, the original architectural plans of the bank's flagship renovation. Her name was stamped across every page. Owner, visionary, founder. She laid the folder on the counter, page wide open. For those still wondering, she said gently, this branch exists because I imagined it. Every wall, every fixture, every training manual. I didn't just check in here. I wrote the standards. Lauren's breath caught. You're lying. A guest behind her, the same elderly woman from earlier, stepped forward. No, she isn't, the woman said. I've been a client here since 1995. I remember when this branch reopened. It was in the paper. She's the woman from the article. The youngest black founder in state banking history. Gregory's knees buckled slightly. His voice was cracked now. How was I supposed to know? You weren't, Aisha answered. But that never stopped you from deciding. The lobby was still. Not out of fear, out of reverence. She turned to the guests, the ones who had witnessed, who had stood between her and the exit. "You didn't have to protect me," she said, her voice soft, sincere. "But you did, and that matters." A few people nodded, others clapped gently. Sophie's camera panned across the faces, solemn, angry, proud. Elena, standing beside Aisha, added, "We're not just watching justice, we're participating in it." Aisha looked once more, at Gregory, Kevin, and Lauren. "You mistook silence for weakness. That's your final mistake." She turned to Elena. "Send the footage to Carla. I want the HR documentation started within the hour, and let's draft a policy update. Every staff member from teller to executive will now be required to review bias mitigation training quarterly, effective immediately." Elena nodded. "Consider it done." Aisha stepped back, her eyes sweeping the marble floors she once dreamed about, now standing at the center of them, unmovable, undeniable. This wasn't just about a card. It was about something deeper. Dignity reclaimed, power revealed, legacy protected. Vanessa didn't linger. She never did. Her heels moved smoothly across the floor, same rhythm as when she entered hours earlier. But this time, the air around her had changed. Not tense, cleared, not fearful, respectful. As she approached the exit, the guests parted silently, not as followers, not as spectators, but as witnesses to something rare. A woman who walked in alone and walked out unchanged. Outside, the sun was lower now, casting a gold tint over the glass facade. Her driver opened the door. Before stepping in, Vanessa paused, turned slightly. She didn't wave. She didn't look back for applause. She just spoke. "Make sure the next black woman who walks through those doors doesn't have to bring her resume in her skin tone." Then she got in. Door shut. Engine on. And just like that, she was gone. Inside, no one spoke for a full minute. Not the clients. Not the staff. Not even the manager hiding in his office. Adrian Moreno, now fully aware of the responsibility she had inherited, walked back to the center of the floor. Her tablet buzzed. A message from compliance. All terminations approved. New policy package live. Commendation submitted for branch liaison. A. Moreno. She exhaled, then raised her voice, calm, firm. "New chapter begins now. If you're ready to build something better, stay. If not, clock out." No one moved, because in truth, they all knew the answer. Back at HQ, the footage had already hit the internal server. 4 board members sent reactions. 2 demanded immediate rollout of Vanessa's new policy. 1 simply wrote, "She didn't just walk into a branch. She walked into history, and reminded us whose name is on the building." Vanessa, now halfway across the city, answered a new call. Investor group. High profile. International reach. They'd heard. They wanted her to consult, advise, maybe even restructure their entire ethics division. She gave her usual answer. "Send the proposal. If it respects my time, I'll respect yours." She looked out the window. The skyline moved past like a living resume. Every building one she helped fund, audit, or save. But today wasn't about business. It was about reminder that even now, even here, dignity still needs to be defended. And if no one else would, she would keep showing up, one quiet revolution at a time.